It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
It's Get the Van. We're going for our Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Hope you guys all enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. Hope everybody's got all their appendages still attached to them. Joining us today on this Monday, Brendan Howe. How we doing?
Not too bad. I know it looks like I'm in a holding cell right now. I'm in a room at my other job. I know people have talked about backgrounds before. I just moved this past week, so I have the office all set up. You guys will get to see that soon. I have Steelers posters in the back. It looks pretty nice. Just not today.
Okay, well, let's hope that you're not. Your girlfriend may be in a holding cell when she gets a hold of you for something that we talked about right before we started recording. Alan, how we doing? How was your weekend?
It was great. It was very good. Went up to Presque Isle, spent the Saturday up there.
There we go.
The flagship Niagara, which is back from I guess it was getting worked on. So made its return to Erie. If you've never been up there, check that out. And got something we've been asked about for a while that we're going to get to on the show today. So I'm excited for that.
Been asked several times, but like in different forms of basically asking the same question. And I like how we're going to do it this week, bringing on different people from different teams and doing it this way, but basically giving you a preview of the Steelers within the division. We'll talk about all the other teams throughout the week as well. Not going to do every single position. I know that we've kind of changed from 30 minutes to 40 minutes. That would be well over an hour if we were to do that. But we're going to hit the major talking points of this team, give you a preview of what's going on. To be honest, first and foremost, before we dive into positions, I feel like we got to talk about the coaching and the turnover that's taking place there to give you a preview. So, Brendan, we'll start with you.
Just off the top, there's been a lot of change this offseason, obviously. Like, it's not the same AFC North as we've seen. John Harbaugh is out. Obviously, Mike Tomlin's out. Kevin Stefanski's in Atlanta now. I feel like it's going to be a very interesting season just in terms of – and I've written some about it, about what other people have said, like people from ESPN and stuff, about like how different this division is going to look, being that Taylor is still in Cincinnati. Like, it's going to look a lot different. And I think it's hard to rank coaching right off the top of the head, especially like we haven't seen what they've done in the AFC North yet, if that makes any sense. Like Mike McCarthy, very proven, probably the most proven of the bunch. So I would say that the Steelers are set up pretty well from what we've seen. It's a little different at practices and stuff. The quarterback topic has been touched upon probably countless times, even just with you guys. So I can't rank those, I would say, right now, but I would say that the Steelers are pretty well positioned on paper with Mike McCarthy there and the coaching staff that he has.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, it's funny. Does anybody think Zach Taylor's the best coach in the division, even though he's the only one who didn't get fired last year? Like,
Yeah.
Nobody. Like, I don't know. I guess we'll talk. We're going to have a Bengals reporter on later this week. But, I mean, I think the Steelers, I'll agree with well-positioned. I think a lot of the downside of the Steelers turning over their head coaching position this offseason is pretty significantly mitigated by the Ravens doing so at the same time. The Browns are such a mess. I don't even know if it matters who their head coach is, but I would feel a lot worse about the Steelers coaching situation if they weren't going through this change at the same time the Ravens are going through it. Even though they approached it differently, I would have a hard time saying that the Steelers are worse off than the Ravens right now. I don't know, maybe like a T1 sort of situation there.
Like Jesse Minter, he's a guy that he kind of feels like a Raven. Just he's been with the Harbaughs. He's coached under both brothers, I think. So he has a general idea. He's coached the Ravens before, but Todd Monken in Cleveland doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me. Like just the situation that he's taken over, like you said, the mess. Like you get rid of Myles Garrett. Obviously, Jerry Verse is a good defensive end, and we'll talk about that later. But I think that the Steelers maybe made the splashiest coaching hire by getting Mike McCarthy. And at the time, I was kind of like, I wasn't fully inspired by them taking him on. But if I had to rank, and I know I said I couldn't rank them, but in terms of like how confident I am that each coach can have success, I'd probably put McCarthy and Minter together, and then obviously Monk in like the Browns or the Browns. So if I was gonna rank it, I guess that's how I'd put it at this point. Somewhere Taylor falls into there. I'm not sure where right now, but that's where I'd put that.
Let's talk about quarterback, because the interesting thing here is it's odd to say that they're running it back with the same starting quarterback multiple seasons in a row. That's been an anomaly for the Pittsburgh Steelers doing so. So that is not, I feel like, what people want to talk about. It's also more interesting. It's almost more interesting to talk about what's going on behind Aaron Rodgers for that backup spot. That is the storyline that people want to watch throughout the summer. That is the position, or I should say, the position on the depth chart that people are interested in, Alan.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's great that the Steelers are running it back with Aaron Rodgers. It's also this, like, okay, the really funny thing about ranking the quarterbacks of the AFC North is that if the Steelers had Drake May or Justin Herbert or Super Bowl champion Sam Darnold, they would have the third best quarterback in the division. And also, if they were starting Mason Rudolph, they would have the third best quarterback in the division. So, I mean, there's a huge gap between, I don't know how you want to rank Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and whatever the heck the Cleveland Browns are doing. And the Steelers are certainly going to fall into that gap. It's tough. I talked on the Morning Rush this morning about how teams like the Steelers that do not have a quarterback like Burrow or Lamar can beat those teams. And while the Seahawks and the Eagles and the 49ers to some extent have certainly showed that it's possible, I think especially in the AFC and especially with two of those guys in their division, it is very, very difficult. Like, until the Steelers get a quarterback that is at least somewhat competitive with those guys, I think Aaron Rodgers is a lot better than what they've been rolling out the last few years. But I just don't think it's going to be enough, probably, unless they're really able to click with the whole rest of the team. And I just don't think where they are in their rebuild, they're able to put together a team like, say, those 2020 Eagles, 2020's Eagles or something like that. Like, they're not going to be a team that's going to drag average quarterback play to a Super Bowl, and that's probably what they're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you look at the return on investment that they got from last year. I don't know how you could say he at least didn't provide that value back to them. I mean, he's an average starting quarterback. You're not finding that for $10 to $13 million. Obviously, that's not what he's making this year. Significant increase there, which I think that we kind of all expected, but I think you could still return on investment that. I think that, like, the big point with that, though, that sometimes isn't talked about within, like, the salary is, like, that's not where you should be just looking for the best bang for your buck. Like, the rest of your roster has to be so good for that to matter. That should be the position where you're willing to commit the amount of resources, whether that be obviously the draft capital or spending high once they're off their rookie contract, whatever it might be. But certainly Aaron Rodgers has returned the level of investment that the Steelers have put into him. I'm curious to see this year how much that changes with a better offense around him. We'll talk about that, obviously. But Brendan, what are your thoughts about the quarterback room?
I would argue that the Steelers also have the third best backup in the AFC North. Like, Tyler Huntley's a proven guy in Baltimore. Joe Flacco inspired fear into Mike Tomlin, as we saw last season, where he was very upset that he ended up being traded to Cincinnati. Then we saw that Thursday night game, exactly why that was. He saw him a ton. Joe Flacco, honestly, I'd be comfortable with him, not as like a full-time starter, but if Joe Burrow goes down and he's a guy that's in for 4 or 5 weeks, you can trust him to get at least 3 wins. Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler at one point, wasn't he? I know it was kind of the
okay. We're not talking.
I like the look of
you were
disgust.
second in the voting that year.
Yeah,
I can throw a ball pretty well.
I think he was a Pro Bowler with like 5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah. So I think all of these teams have a very interesting, like, quarterback room. You look at Cleveland, and they have that kind of mix of guys. Like, they draft Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders. Both of them get a chance last year. And then Taylon Green, who's just, like, he's a guy that you would figure that with the combine numbers he had, like, maybe in previous years he gets asked to play receiver somewhere. Diego Pavia in Baltimore is an interesting one. Like I know I'm not kind of ranking them, but just going through what each team has here. Josh Johnson has played for just about every NFL, UFL, USFL, Arena League team that you could think of at this point, and he's still hanging around there in Cincinnati behind Flacco and Burrow. I think it's a lot of very interesting mixes of quarterbacks that this division has.
Where's the top? Would you rather have Burrow or Lamar Jackson for 2026? I think it's a very interesting question. I think that Cincinnati's team is built to need a player like Burrow more than Baltimore's is, but I don't know. I go back and forth. I think I would rather have Burrow than Jackson, and that might be a hot take. I don't know.
I mean, you're to me, you're like splitting hairs at the top there for not just in the division, but also the entire league. I think we've seen Burrow with better weapons to me overall than what Lamar Jackson has had at any point in Baltimore, at least in terms of the pass game. Now, obviously, Derrick Henry in the backfield with Lamar. I think that offense was more catered to Lamar. I don't know if you switch their situations that I would have the same answer. I've always leaned a little bit towards Lamar. And I'm not baking health into that at all. Neither guy's been particularly super healthy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think I think I would take whichever in their situations right now. I would take I would take Lamar if I was Baltimore, and I would take Joe Burrow if I was Cincinnati. I don't know if I'm an evil playing field. Okay. I'll take Burrow right now. This moment in time.
I was gonna say that too. Just he has the better weapons. I was thinking as you guys are saying that, like if you switch Lamar to Cincinnati and you give him the weapons Burrow has, and then you switch Burrow to Baltimore with the weapons that Lamar has, I think Lamar obviously does better. Like I don't think Joe Burrow is raising that wide receiver group that they have it. And something with the Ravens too is in my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen them have like a legit long-term number one wide receiver. Like they've had these imports where even like Odell Beckham Jr. has a weird stint there for a year. I think that was that was a few seasons ago, the last Kenny Pickett season, I believe. And I think they've had guys like DeAndre Hawkins play there. I could be wrong. It seems like he's been everywhere at this point. But I would definitely, I think, go with Burrow right now too, just because Lamar's game too is going to have to, like you've seen it these past few seasons where he gets hurt. It's going to have to change a little bit in terms of him running the ball as much as he does because of how he's been getting hurt. So right now, I'd say Burrow, but you also, like you guys said, have to factor in the weapons.
Are we all in agreement that Cleveland is just not even worth talking about here? Move on.
Yeah. I'm interested when we do have their guy on later in the week, though, if they're going to be in agreement with kind of all the speculation out about it's going to be Deshaun Watson and not Shedeur Sanders.
Does it matter who it is?
No, I don't think. I think we're too far removed to keep doing this whole, well, if Deshaun Watson finds it again. Like, I understand what he was at one point in time. We are so far removed from that, though. It's not even worth talking about it to me at this point. Yeah, I don't know what else to say on that. They are for regardless of if it is Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, though, to me.
Yeah. Peyton Manning has been good more recently, I think, than Deshaun Watson. All right, let's move to running back, where I think the Steelers got better this offseason, adding Rico Dowdle. But it's tough. It's a tough division. I mean, I don't see how you don't put Derrick Henry at the top. I'm tempted to put the Steelers second. I've never really been a big fan of what Cincinnati has done in the rushing offense under Zach Taylor. I think he gets less out of his personnel than maybe he ought to. But that being said, Chase Brown does not particularly scare me. I think I'll go Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati. I'm just a big fan of Judkins, and I think the Browns did well with Dylan Sampson behind him. I think that's a real dynamic duo that could be good for a long time.
I think that in Baltimore's case, they're going to miss Keaton Mitchell a little bit more than people realize, I think, for diversifying the backfield. I think he is such an explosive player, and not to say that obviously Derrick Henry still isn't. He's getting up there. I'm not going to predict that he's going to just completely fall off this year or anything like that. And they have some other capable backs. I mean, Justice Hill has been a pass catcher. I don't know. I liked Rasheen Ali when he first came in, but he's been pretty much just a kick returner for them. I think they're going to miss Keaton Mitchell's juice in that offense to a degree. I do like Pittsburgh's backfield. I don't necessarily have a question about Jaylen Warren being able to take on more receiving duty, but like that's what's going to have to happen to make up for the loss of Kenny Gainwell. And I think Rico Dowdle's a better runner. We talked about, the fit for what they want to do offensively. Maybe it does make more sense, but if you're going to be a pass-happy, pass-first offense, obviously Jaylen Warren is going to be the primary beneficiary when you look at the backfield from that. How does Quinshon Judkins come back from that injury last year? But I actually like what they have from a makeup perspective, assuming health from Cleveland, because I really like Dylan Sampson as well as a pass-catching back. And then, in Cincinnati, I'm in agreement. I actually like Chase Brown a little bit. To me, it's more about I don't trust the scheme to get the best out of the running situation. You know what? I'm actually going to say Pittsburgh won on this one over Baltimore as a backfield. I'm going to say Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
I think what you say there about Pittsburgh being number one, like Pittsburgh and Baltimore can be interchangeable to me, basically just because like the Steelers have a 1-2 punch that the Ravens do not. Like, of course, you have Derrick Henry, and like you mentioned, he's getting up there in age. You got to wonder like how that split goes and how many carries they give him, being that he's where he is now. If Quinshon Judkins doesn't get hurt at the end of last season, I think Cleveland has a legit argument to be up there in the top 2 as well. I liked how Allen ranked it there. But I could see like your argument of switching Pittsburgh and Baltimore just because of that 1-2 punch. Like we saw what they could do with 2 backs last year and Kenneth Gainwell breaking out the way he did. Obviously Jaylen Warren is fine with sharing a backfield. Like at one point last year or whenever we talked about MVP voting, like he said Kenneth Gainwell was his best friend. I'm not sure him and Rico are going to be that close. Like I'm not sure how that interpersonal relationship goes, but we've never seen Jaylen Warren have an issue with sharing carries and not being the guy that's in there 100% of the time. So if I had to lean, I'd still say Baltimore number one, just because Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. And he still could have an amazing season. He went over 2,000 a few years ago. So I'll go with Allen's for now. But like I said, that's the thing too. If Quinshon Judkins, what'd you say?
I said live a little.
Yeah. If Quinshon Judkins comes back and he's as good as he was at the early portion of last year, I think we might be having a different conversation this time next year about these rooms.
Okay, fair enough. The Steelers reshaped their wide receiver room. So did the Browns. Baltimore, I don't know. I think the 3 of us might be catching passes behind Zay Flowers in that room. No, they do have Rashad Bateman there. Who was the kid that torched the Steelers in that last game of the regular season? Yes, that was him. On at least one play there. Did they add anybody else? Oh, Elijah Surratt in the draft.
And Jacoby Lane. Back-to-back picks.
Okay. And then Cincinnati. Do you need to say anything about what they have up top in their wide receiver room? So to me, I don't know how you talk about anybody else besides them as the number one group. But then it's very interesting because it's just groups that have reshaped. Like, how do you even evaluate Cleveland's wide receiver room behind Jerry Jeudy when it's 2 draft picks high that you expect to be the number 2 and 3 pass catchers within there, or maybe even both of them above Jerry Jeudy? So Cincinnati, the clear number 1. I like, man, I really like what Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, even though I didn't think it was a great fit for Pittsburgh, bring to the table. I like Michael Pittman. I think Steelers fans might be overrating a little bit what he is at this juncture. I need to see more. I need to see more in terms of scheme versatility from Jeremy Bernard. I'm going to say I would go Bengals, Browns, Steelers, Ravens, wide receiver rooms.
Yeah, that's my 4 in that order. Bengals aren't even worth talking about. I think the Browns, Isaiah Bond as an undrafted free agent last year was really, really good. And I love the combination of Boston and Concepcion. I think they did exactly what the Steelers should have done in this draft in terms of the wide receiver position, which is hit it twice with significant talent. I think Jeremy Bernard is a really, really high floor player, but I don't think he has the ceiling that you really think is going to shift the room in a significant way. And Michael Pittman is such an up. I think you're right. The Steelers fans are overrating him. It's hard not to, considering what they've had at wide receiver 2 the last few years. But he is, like, you know, I think at best the third best wide receiver 2 here. Baltimore's room is not good. I mean, I think Zay Flowers is probably a good slot receiver, but not much else. I've never been a big fan of Rashad Bateman. We'll see about Tez Walker. I thought had an okay college career, but to me, that's a unit that's not very exciting to anyone. I'm dead on with Smitty's 4.
I'll change up a bit here. I think as you guys are talking about that, and Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion are guys that I wrote about probably 100 times each leading up to the draft, just in terms of mock drafts and reading their scouting reports and stuff. Something that stood out to me whenever we were at OTAs and whenever we were at minicamp was when DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. line up next to each other. Like, it looks like a very formidable duo. And I've gone on this whole offseason talking about, well, Michael Pittman ended up being a number 3 in Indianapolis. I'm not sure how much better Alec Pierce was than him in theory. Like, so I will say
significantly. That's my answer.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
I don't know about that. But
I significantly.
Obviously, Cincy first. I'll switch Steelers in a second, just because the thing too that I saw this weekend, like Jeremy Bernard and Roman Wilson working with the route god guy, who Roman Wilson just like, yeah, he's the guy I worked with, and everybody kind of overblows it. But it didn't seem to me at OTAs and minicamp that Jeremy Bernard was that jacked. Like he looked more jacked in those pictures and those videos, and I remember seeing him like running routes and stuff during practice. So, and I've been a guy that this offseason too that says, well, Roman Wilson still has somewhat of a runway to break out. So I'll stick with that. I'll say Cincy first, Steelers second, Browns third, even though I like those 2 rookies, and then Baltimore is Baltimore.
Just to clarify here, you're putting the Steelers second because of a picture that you saw with the route god.
That is not what I said. That's not what I said there. No.
It seemed like a fair summary of what you said.
No, I think that DK and Michael Pittman, both very tall receivers. I think you have an argument for them being the tallest 1 and 2 in the league. I think that will be very interesting just to see how that works. And then the mix of Roman Wilson, Jeremy Bernard is something that I'm kind of excited about. So that is what I'm saying, not because I saw Jeremy Bernard shirtless over the 4th of July weekend. So I just want
I think you can make the argument that you'd rather have DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman than Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion right now. I just don't know for how long that argument's going to hold up. Certainly don't think it will be by the end of this season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're closer to each other than obviously Cincinnati. Like, that's not even a discussion.
Like, it's not
having that they're number 1. Now at tight end here though is interesting because Baltimore for years has been the team that we've talked about being so good at the tight end position, but 2 of their top 3 no longer in that building now. And Mark Andrews, significant step back. I mean, you watch him like Chuck Clark was locking this dude up last year. So Mark Andrews still a reliable set of hands, but it's hard for him to get open at this juncture. I get the Steelers as the best tight end room, and I think that might even go beyond the division, that we could have the conversation for them having one of the better tight end rooms in the league. And to be honest, you go through the rest of the tight end rooms, and there's nothing really that jumps out. I mean, Harold Fannon's a really good player, but who else has a number 2 that's even close within that? Njoku no longer there, obviously, to talk about them as a 1-2 punch. Mike Gesicki is the number 1.
I don't even know which of the Bengals you consider the 1 and which you consider the 2.
Yeah.
I guess it's Gesicki and then Drew Sample. They kind of both play a lot. Yeah. I'm with you. I think this is Pittsburgh all the way, and then really tough to parse number 2. I guess I'll go. I think Durham Smith is like a lot better than anybody else Cleveland can put out there. And I think Fannin and Andrews are pretty even. So I'll say Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati. I don't know. Those three are all real close.
I think it even goes beyond Pat and Darnell in that tight end room too. Like Robert Tonyan is a guy who had a great season with Aaron Rodgers. They have a relationship where he comes during the offseason and he's at practice and Aaron Rodgers spends 10 minutes talking to him in warmups. So I think that relationship could help. This year, Jonnu Smith is not going to be eating up unnecessary receptions. So all that to say, like Pittsburgh's an obvious number one. I like what Fanning can do. I think that just him alone makes Cleveland number two for me. Baltimore, like you said, Mark Andrews is getting old, but I'd still take him over Gesicki, who I think has been on 3 teams now. So I'll go Steelers, Browns, Ravens, Bengals.
The Cincinnati Bengals took a pretty significant step forward on the offensive line last year to go from the worst to about average, in my opinion, with the way that they played last year. The Steelers, you feel pretty good about center over to the left side. There's 2 spots open there. Baltimore, I mean, injuries and stuff. They've just had so many different rotating pieces there within their offensive line. And then with the Browns, I mean, talk about rotating pieces. They just went out and said, this is where we're going to add a bunch of vets. But then with everything else that they did business-wise, kind of made you think, what was the point of that taking place? How do we feel about ranking the offensive lines here?
That's a good. I mean, it's tough. I think there's so much new here. You have 3, you have 4 new starters in Cleveland. You have 3 new starters in Baltimore. You have Cincinnati, which is, I think, bringing all 5 guys back, but like 3 or 4 of them were new in 2025. This is really, really even. I think I like, man, this is hard. Like Cleveland is going to be better than I think the results were because both of those guys run into some sacks. I'm not sure I'm sold on Spencer Fano as a left tackle. I think I'd have been trying to play him on the right side somewhere. I don't know though. This is really, really tough.
Yeah, I mean, Titus Howard's a guy that has played left tackle too. So
yeah,
you could have had. Maybe they should have thought about flipping them, but I guess the idea is Fano be the long term at left tackle.
Give me Baltimore, I guess. I don't know. Like they did very little at center.
Yeah, obviously massive departure there in the form of Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah. I don't know. Every offensive line has at least one solid strength and at least one significant weakness. I have really I'm just going to put Baltimore first because I think Ronnie Stanley's the best left tackle, and that's the most important position.
And Vangdi Ioane, obviously, a pretty massive addition for them.
Big addition. Yeah. I might put Cincinnati second.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. This is hard. Harder than I thought it was going to be.
I think that they are pretty close, though. Like, I don't think that the gap between 1 and 4 is like that significant here.
I'll say
I think
Cleveland,
that they're all
Cincinnati. I'm sorry, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. I like a lot of Cleveland's players, but I don't like their left tackle as a rookie. I don't think he's really a left tackle at all. And I think some of those vets are going to be checked out by the situation in Cleveland.
I'm going to flip Cincinnati and Pittsburgh on mine. Still have Baltimore number 1 and Cleveland number 4. And I'll add to that I think 10 games in, or at least by the end of the season, just depending on how that right side goes, like good chance to me that Pittsburgh is the best of the division.
It is hard to rank a Pittsburgh offensive line that we only know 3/5 of with any degree of certainty right now.
Yeah. And again,
I feel a lot
conversations.
I feel a lot different about this unit if it's like Brock Hoffman and Dylan Cook that just like clearly win fair 3-way fights for those jobs than I will if it's the 2 rookies. That'd feel very different to me.
It'll be interesting, like when we bring on people throughout this week to see if there's maybe competition at jobs that we're not thinking about right now. Like when we're over this offensive line. I don't know.
Center for Baltimore is 1. Since he's bringing their 5 back, and I think Cleveland kind of has everybody in a spot.
Who's Cleveland's starting center? I think there's been some. Oh, he's playing center. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Brendan, what do you think?
I get the 3/5 of the Steelers line, but like those 3/5 are very set. Like they have experience together. I'd say Zach Frazier, obviously. I think that he's the best center in the division. Aaron Rodgers thinks that he could be one of the best in the league going into his third season. I know that it's kind of a mix of guys right now, and right now it's looking like Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson on the right side. But I think that there could be an argument made that the experience, like they're gonna have guys stepping in like Brock Hoffman has experience. Dylan Cook showed last season what he could do. I think there could be an argument right now, even with, and this might sound stupid. I can see Allen's wheels turning his head, but I think there could be an argument that the Steelers could top this list, like just because of those three guys on the left side, or the two guys on the left side, and Zach Frazier. Like that's a pretty good three to start with. After that, Cleveland's remade. I'm not a big believer in Fano either. I think that out of the guys that were drafted between him and Baltimore, that I would much rather have Venga Iwane. So I'll say Pittsburgh first. I'll go out on a limb here. I'll agree with Cleveland, Baltimore, then Cincy.
Oh, you have Pittsburgh. Oh, okay. All right, that's very.
Did you see a picture or something of the offensive line with an offensive line coach? Or
yeah, that's crazy.
I would say, just to your point, I would feel a lot better about the Steelers' three guys if Fautanu and McCormick weren't switching sides. If they had been in their positions they're in now last year, I think you could make a little bit better argument for the Steelers. There just has to be some uncertainty there with those guys moving.
I also think that we need to consider the fact that Dylan Cook was on the program last week, and that obviously helps out a bunch for the offensive line points. So let's do this differently with the defense. We'll separate it, run defense and pass defense, all putting together those. So kind of more canvassing as opposed to position by position. Man, I think that Derek Harmon in the lineup, or Derek Harmon out of the lineup, could take the Steelers from being near the top to pretty easily fourth here if you're just looking at the results from last year. I don't know that I mean, Cincinnati's defense is a mess. Like, I know that they got better. They obviously made the massive trade there for Sexy Dexy, which should help out the run defense quite a bit. Is it enough to change their positioning within the division?
It's all about positioning for me. I think Pittsburgh is very clearly number one on paper. I don't really even think anybody comes close. I think Baltimore is very clearly number two on paper, and I don't think anybody really comes close. The question to me is where you put Cincinnati and Cleveland. Obviously, with the Browns losing Myles Garrett, I do like Jared Verse, but I think Myles Garrett hid a whole lot of average on the rest of their front seven. Besides Schlesinger and Verse, the rest of those five are just guys. I think with Dexter Lawrence, I'll put Cincinnati ahead of Cleveland. I also, again, think I have a hard time seeing guys who've been around like Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit playing their best ball, watching the Browns win 3 games after trading Myles Garrett. Like, I just don't expect any Cleveland veteran to play well. And I think Mason Graham's a bit he was fine, but I think he was a bit overrated in the draft process. I never really loved that pick. So I'll put Cincinnati ahead of Cleveland.
Okay, Brendan.
I like that order too. I was going to mention Mason Graham, like an early round pick. It seems like he's someone that people are high on. I like your point though that like Myles Garrett hit a lot with Cleveland, because I'm thinking last year, like I was thinking as you're saying that of putting the Browns ahead of the Ravens, and then you look at the Ravens and whatever Trey Hendrickson is now, obviously he's like I don't think that he's going to have as great a season as people think. This is hard for me. I would probably go the same order as Alan though. Like the Steelers, I like what they have in their front four at least, and it seems like a very deep group up there with even guys like YA and Sebastian Joseph Day. So yeah, obviously they're number one, and I'll go with what Alan said for the rest because
The big question here for me with Baltimore is Madubuike coming back. I think
Yeah.
if you're getting the best version of him, obviously that changes the math for
They
them.
brought Calais
up
Campbell
front.
back too. Don't disregard that because he's so
Yeah.
freaking good still. Like
Mhm.
I know he's old, but like when you put like I think him and Broderick Washington and Travis Jones and John Jenkins, like when you add Madubuike, then that starts to become a really good interior defensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I got to see it with Cincinnati. Maybe there's something defensively. They definitely upgraded the talent there, no question. But like, I'm curious to see how it all comes together schematically. I kind of by like default, I'm going to put them at 4 to start at least here. But I'll go same besides that. So Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Pass defense.
Pass defense. Okay, now this is I've made my thoughts very clear here about Marlon Humphrey. I think that we've seen the best. I think he is the secondary version of Mark Andrews for that Baltimore Ravens group at this point. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, I think is better, and maybe coaching comes into this too a little bit. It's not just about the personnel, but I have an uptick in faith with the Steelers pass defense this year. I think Jamel Dean changes a lot for them because he actually can mirror a lot of things that Joey Porter Jr. can do and allows them to match up differently than they have been in the past, because you don't have one guy that you like as a press hands-on corner and then another guy that's more fit to just cut off half the field and play zone. Cincinnati, I mean, besides DJ Turner, they had nothing in that secondary. I do, going back to the upgraded version of them, I really like the Brian Cook addition. I think he's a solid player. In Cleveland, I mean, Denzel Ward is a top 5, top 7 corner in this league. But you brought up a lot of good points there in terms of how do the vets kind of react to all this around them too. But should we be baking that in at the same time? I mean, this might sound crazy. I like Pittsburgh's secondary at the top.
And then
so I'm going to go with them first.
Then Baltimore, then where do you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Hamilton just changes everything for the Ravens. Like, they would probably maybe they're 4 for me without him, to be honest with you. But I'll go Baltimore 2, Cleveland 3, Cincinnati 4.
Yeah, I like the Ravens number 1. I think Hamilton and Starks are both best at their jobs in the division right now. And so you're talking about 5-man secondaries for the most part. If you have 2 of the best 5, I think you're number 1. I think Marlon Humphrey is well beyond his prime, but is still a dangerous player against the run. He creates turnovers. And while I don't think much of Chidobe Awuzie, I think Nate Wiggins is like a pretty good corner. I'll put Pittsburgh very clearly second. I think they've improved. I still have questions about free safety, but that's really the only spot where I have questions. I don't know. I think I'll put Cleveland ahead of Cincinnati because of getting Emmanuel Warren. I think he has the opportunity to become a really, really good playmaker. And if you put him alongside Delpit and Hickman and Ward, the fact that Tyson Campbell is their corner too, which probably, I mean, him and Awuzie are pretty much the same guy at this point. But I think Emmanuel Warren has a little more juice than the rest of these guys, and I'll put Cincinnati last. Even though I do love Brian Cook, I think I'll put Cincinnati last.
So what I'm thinking here are I talked earlier this offseason about how deep the Steelers' defensive back room is, and I still believe that. I'm sure that they'll be getting something done with Joey at some point. I like Alan's point about the 2 safeties in Baltimore too. I like both of them. I think it's kind of like 50-50 with Baltimore and the Steelers to match them up. I'm going to give the edge to Baltimore just because of what they have in the back in those 2. Steelers next. The Browns, I like Denzel Ward. I like Ronnie Hickman just as an Ohio State guy, having watched him. Grant Delpit, I think, is pretty good. And then Cincy, Cincy doesn't have much. So I'll go Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincy.
Okay. Worth bringing up special teams at all? I guess we could just do an all-in canvassing.
I
Special
mean,
teams as one.
I think the Steelers have to feel good about Boswell, but with a new coaching staff, I don't know. Like it's hard to say what their strengths and weaknesses are going to be. They obviously invested pretty heavily in special teams with Weegen and guys like Nowakowski and Heidenreich, and expect to be have a lot of special teamers there. They have the Pro Bowl special teamer. I guess Steelers 1 is pretty clear. I don't really know what you make of the rest here. Gosh, I mean, Evan McPherson's pretty good. Corey Bojorquez might be the best punter. Tyler Loop was very good until he blew it.
Right. Steelers fans might have a different opinion of Tyler Loop than what the reality is based off the year that he had. I understand he missed the most important kick of his season, but
I think I'll say Steelers, Bengals, Ravens, Browns.
Okay. The Ravens also lost their punter, who was one of the best with Harbaugh leaving, brings him in.
They did. They drafted one, Ryan Eckley, in the 6th round.
Okay. It's interesting because I don't know. Special teams, you would expect there to be a decent amount of turnover every single year, but like this year seems even more so to me for the Steelers. Like so many special team snaps were lost, but you still obviously have the staples in there. So I'm in agreement with the Steelers 1. I'm gonna go. Wait, who's the Bengals punter?
Recco.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I'm gonna go Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, Browns, which is interesting. The Browns do have the best punter.
I just basically
their
ranked
special teams was just awful.
Okay. That was really the kickers and the Steelers having the best kicker and the Pro Bowl special teamer felt like that made it very easy.
Enough.
But the other 3 teams, I just kind of ranked the kickers. I don't think any of them, like, is there a return man in the division that scares you? It's very strange. There isn't a single one to me that's like, oh, you got to watch out for that guy. It's like they all feel.
The days of Devin Duvernay with the Ravens are long gone. Otherwise, I'd say yes.
Josh Cribbs, if you want to go back further. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a guy that scares me on a kick return. There isn't like another note. I mean, there's certainly players that are good special teamers, but there isn't like a real demon there that's sort of notable for their special teams play. I just ranked the kickers.
And obviously Ben Skoranek.
My reasoning here, best kicker, Chris Boswell. I'll put the Steelers first. I think punting matters here too, so I'll put the Browns second. McPherson stands out to me in Cincy. I'll put them third. And then I know like Tyler Loop might have had a good season, but I know that special teams, like kicking, is kind of a mental game. I wonder how that messes with Tyler Loop. And he talked about earlier this offseason that he says he kind of just has to look forward, which is the obvious answer. But I'm going to put Baltimore fourth for that reason.
Yeah, I don't know if he went to the kicking god at all this offseason to get right.
Shirtless picture anywhere. Can I see it?
All right, good stuff. Anything else in regard to this preview?
I am going to be taking our aggregate answers, and then we're going to put those into an article on the site, and then we're going to make a little graphic that we can show the rest of the division as we are bringing in some friends from around the AFC North for the rest of the week. And then by Friday, we'll have the definitive answer of the rankings of the AFC North entering the 2026 season, according to Steelers Afternoon Drive.
Also, let's just get out in front of this because I know the comments are going to say something about it. The first 5 minutes of this, you might get some feedback, some echo go. We got it figured out on Brendan's side. So thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for making it the whole way through this. We want to know your rankings within the AFC North as well. So we want your answers down in the comments for sure, whether you're watching here on YouTube or listening to Spotify. You can also drop them over there. But you guys know the drill at this point. Brendan, tell the people they can find you.
Find me at by Brendan Howe on X. Obviously not much posts recently, but we're coming up on training camp here where I'll have videos of everybody arriving, videos of practices, which I'm excited about. Hopefully it's not as hot as it was this past week when we're in Latrobe. That's always a fun part of it. So
Hotter.
hopefully not. 95 is pretty hot. I didn't tell you guys, part of why my week was so long was our AC busted over this week. So our apartment complex said it was not an emergency. It was 89 degrees in my apartment, which was not fun. So yeah, you can find me there. I also recently started a Substack called Go Route. If you want to go look at that, I haven't gotten too much up, just been busy moving and stuff, but hoping to get some more writing out there. So that's where you can find me.
I mean, who are they to tell you what's an emergency? 89 degrees in my apartment, I would say constitutes as an emergency, but nonetheless. Alan, tell the people they can find you.
I've not had air conditioning in the room where I
that's right. Yeah,
all year. Has not been operating. So we'll some of us are just built different. That's all I gotta say. You can find me @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid, and Brendan, and sign up for SN Plus. You get the words with no ads, which is the best way to read them. Continuing our all 90 project over there. I think we got Logan Lee and maybe Caden Weegan on deck. So a couple of Iowa guys. Check that out. Anyone can subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel, which literally just updated in the middle of this episode, which really honks me off because I'm just going with it. I'm lying. We have 17,872 subscribers. We don't. We have 73, but I'm going to unsubscribe real quick so that we still have 72 for me to talk about what I plan to talk about. 72, not a number with a ton of history with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say. A couple tackles in recent memory. Wayne Gandy, Leon Searcy, but Zach Banner very notably reporting as eligible. But the clear best 72 in Steelers history was Moon Mullins, who was the starting guard on the Steelers' 4 Super Bowl teams of the 1970s. His real name is Gary, and Gary Mullins, who's from California and was a 4th-round pick of the Steelers in 71 out of USC, was nicknamed Moon because of a comic strip. There was a comic strip named Moon Mullins that ran for a very, very, very long time from the 1920s into the 1990s. And it's about a guy who's sort of a rough character. He's a kind of a guy who's drinking and womanizing and that kind of thing. So that's Moon Mullins. Gary Mullins gets I think they even spelled it the same with an I, not an E. But gets the nickname Moon and wins 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers. Cannot confirm the drinking and the womanizing. No idea if that carries over or not, but I guess maybe we could find out.
Yeah, let's we go to the comments a lot for information. Let us know if there's or if you've heard any tales to be told about Moon Mullins. I'm very curious now. You got my mind going. Let's add to that number. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. So you never miss
look
an
at
episode.
73. Geez, shocker. How did that happen? I don't know.
No, I just unsubscribed. No, it's passion. No, hit us in the comments your thoughts, anything we talked about, question for a future episode, all of that good stuff. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, we're also there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive, leave us a 5-star review, and subscribe if it's on Spotify. Leave a comment or question right on the individual episode. Hit us up on all the socials, Steelers Afternoon Drive, other than on Twitter, where it's Steelers_AD. And if you don't get enough of me here, you can also find me over at Around the 412. For Brendan Howe, Alan Saunders, and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.